Hello there. Hi.
Hello and welcome.
Welcome.
8123 podcast phone call edition
Phone.
part 2.
I feel better now. Like just
Yeah.
I've the first one I was like, this is weird not having you in the same room. but but now I feel like I'm used to it.
Yeah. I think this is the second sorry, I just burped. I feel like this is the second person we've had on the podcast to do like a full interview with.
Yeah.
We brought Halva back, but
Halvo,
just
yeah.
for like I don't even know.
Everyone should remember that madness.
Yeah. So today we have Rian Dawson from All Time Low. Great guy.
Yeah, great.
Awesome talk.
Great guy, great smile.
Yeah, we get deep into talking about recording an album and things. So it'll get a bit specific for people that play instruments for a second, but
if you're a rocker, you're gonna love it.
But for the most part, it'll be enjoyed by all, I think. So, yeah, they have a record coming out in I guess about 2 weeks from now, very beginning of April.
Yep.
And I have had the privilege of hearing about 8 songs, and it is radical. So I'm super excited for you guys to hear that, and hopefully you'll get some more insight on that. And then Sad Summer, which is something that I meant to bring up when we were talking, but it's like we haven't been on tour in the United States or Canada with All Time Low since like 2009 or 8.
Yeah. Holy fuck.
Yeah.
That's weird.
10 years.
Over
insane.
12 years.
Over 10 years. Yeah.
Jesus.
So that's exciting.
Yeah, I mean, and it's so funny looking back. Like we are way better friends with them now than we were at that point when we toured with them.
Yeah,
it's like I don't know when that happened. Like in the last, I don't know, what do you say, 5 years or so?
4 or 5 years. Yeah.
Yeah, we were like we seem to like be hanging out with them quite often, which is it's great, and they're great,
yeah.
great guys, and couldn't be more excited to tour with them in the summer.
Yeah, it's going to be an awesome tour, man. It's going to be crazy. So, yeah, we're pumped. So we're going to keep kicking out these episodes here. So you'll be hearing from us often. So
what room do you do these in your house?
Right now I'm just outside.
Staying away from people though.
Yeah, I got dog barking, got a baby, maybe crying. So I am outside, but I'm keeping my distance from people.
So Pat's bringing it from the outside. I'm bringing it from the shed. We're doing it. We're having fun.
Yes. Heck yeah. Well, here it is. Our chat with Rian Dawson, and we will talk to you guys in the next couple days.
Cool.
Hello. Everybody there?
Hello?
I'm here.
Hi. Hey.
Hi.
How's it going out there?
It's good, man. We had a rough couple weeks here. Obviously, everyone's going through it.
I know.
It's I just got power back about I think like 5 or 6 days ago, and then I just got my Wi-Fi about 2 days ago. But I'm still lucky that was the worst of it. So.
Holy shit.
Oh man.
So you had no power for like 2 weeks?
Brutal.
No, man. So where the tornado hit, it was. I mean, where the worst damage was done was literally less than 0.1 miles away from my house. Like it was basically across the street from my block. And so I had like a tree down in my backyard, tree down in my front yard. Some of my fence got taken down, but that was the extent of it. And then no power, obviously, for about 9 days, 10 days. And then when the tree in my backyard fell, it took down my Wi-Fi stuff. But again, like, geez, some of the shit I've seen out here, like, I'm very lucky, very, very lucky.
Jesus, man.
Yeah.
That's so rough.
Man, hard couple of weeks.
I know. I feel so bad for like the businesses, like, because obviously a ton of them had to shut down because of the tornado. Then they opened back up for like a week, and then they're like, nah, fuck that, and then it's just closed again. But I know that's everyone's feeling that across the world.
Yeah. Crazy time.
It's
crazy.
It's hard
times,
to
man.
even put into words how fucking nuts this is.
Yeah, it's so eerie. Like every day it gets a little weirder too, because it like settles in as reality a little bit more. Like it's not just it's like, okay, now this is our life for the foreseeable future.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's just like accepting it over time.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think that's like, we just kind of wanted to keep the podcast going, keep everything as good as we can, and provide some entertainment. And I'm sure that the people at this point are just so sick of only thinking about that.
I agree completely.
Yeah.
Just like trying to find any little bit of a break from only thinking about that. And obviously you guys as a band have so much exciting things going on right now. Is it feel good to have this many songs out from now? People can kind of get a taste of what it's going to be like.
Yeah, so we started doing the record, or like writing for the record. Although to be fair, we weren't even writing for the record. We just started writing for fun in January, February of last year, 2019, in my studio in Nashville. And we came away after like 3 weeks. It was maybe 20 songs. We were like, oh, this is fucking incredible. Then we got together in Palm Springs, did the same thing out there, just band guys, producer, co-producer, and like our assistant / fifth guitarist kind of guy, Dan Swank, in a house in Palm Springs. And just, we could dive into that a little bit more if you want to. But so we're just sitting on these songs for a year, some of them for a year. And for me, like the most nerve-wracking part of being in a band is releasing the first song from a new record or from a new project.
Oh yeah.
And yeah, it's just it's terrifying. And because you love it, you think you love it. At that point, you don't even know anymore. Like there's no perspective. There's no perspective. You just know it. And so we released that first song, Some Kind of Disaster, and the results were just like the reviews were from fans, from critics, from cynics, from everyone was just like overwhelmingly positive. And that's that feeling of just that weight off the shoulders and that just huge release of breath was unbelievable. And then to do it again with our second song on the record called Sleeping In, kind of the same thing, and just the same fan reaction, which is really what drives bands like you and I, is the fan reaction to it, much more so than any kind of like mainstream media or anything like that.
Totally.
And that fan reaction just kept pushing us in a very good direction. And then again with Getaway Green. So far it's been incredible, but of course now you're like, oh God, did we release the best 3 songs and the rest of the record's not as good?
How were you guys like always sure that the some kind of disaster was going to be the first one that people heard? Because that's always the hardest thing. Like I think like the past two records I've for us I've like sent you the first couple options, like, and been like, oh, which ones we put out, because it's always you can overthink that part.
Oh my gosh! Not only, but like you can overthink it, and we certainly have. But also, like it really does steer the ship in a certain direction. It's like that's the fans here. They're all they could already be like, oh, it's too synth heavy. I'm not going to like this record, and then you're pulling yourself up. But funny enough, when we wrote that song, that was probably the second or third song we wrote in Nashville. So it was probably end of January. And Alex and I just kept saying to each other, I cannot wait to open with this song during a set. Like, it's just such a cool, the energy just builds and builds till that first chorus. And I love opening with a song like that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And that's what we just kept, like, we would just like fantasize about playing it on stage. And so we wrote, the rest of the record, and then we just could never get past the thought of like, oh wait, this does feel like an opening track. Yeah, it's alive, but also it's a great taste of the record. It kind of encapsulates like the feel of the entire record. So it wasn't obvious, but looking back at our discussions about how we wanted to open with it live, it kind of makes sense that it was.
Yeah. So did you just give away what you're going to be opening with on Sad Summer?
That's actually a fair point. I would hope so, man. You know how good it is when you get to play when you open with a new song and the crowd likes it. Like that's a great feeling.
God.
That's the best feeling.
It just like makes it so the rest of the show doesn't even matter. It's like it's gonna be fun no matter what.
Well,
now we've had. Oh, go ahead, Garrett.
Well, I was gonna say, speaking about first songs, I remember you guys putting Weightless out on Warped Tour, and because you guys played those like couple shows on Warped Tour, that's over 10 years ago, and I remember you guys opened with that song, and it was fucking crazy. I remember standing with Pat and being like, they just put this out, and everyone's going fucking wild. It was like I have such a memory of that. Like it's such a
man, that's really cool that you remember that. Yeah, that was a time, and I don't like to speak ahead of myself, but the feeling of this momentum and this record and everything that's happened around it so far is, I keep saying it, is like when we put out Weightless and like when we were touring on Nothing Personal, just an overwhelming, it's like we're just riding this wave and the fan base is just, just pushing us from behind, and it's a great feeling. But it's, we've definitely put out songs before and the fan reaction was good. And then we go to play it live, we open with it, and you can just like hear the eye rolls, like, oh, they're going to do this thing now where they only play new music. But so far, we'll see.
I mean, it's so funny, like how instantly you can like tell, it's like you can really tell if this is going to be a record that like just our core fans are really going to be into, or if this is something that like everybody is gonna love. And it's like, sometimes it takes you a second to like admit to yourself that like that's what's happening, but you can feel it. I remember we talked about that when we were in the Philippines, and I think it was when we put out American Candy, and you guys put out Future Hearts. Yeah.
Future Hearts, yeah.
Future Hearts. And it was like both kind of like happening at the same time, where it was like, hey, this just like feels awesome right now.
And
being a band.
And what's weird about that is that it's not like look, I could find bad reviews about this new record or about Nothing Personal or about Future Hearts, and I can find positive reviews of other records, but it's somehow like, you're right, it's just a feeling. Like there's some sort of, you just feel this like force in one direction of like, okay, we're gonna have to convince the fan base, or okay, they're along for the ride. And I don't really know how it's like tangible like that, but you're absolutely right.
Yeah, I mean it's such a instant thing too. Like in the first 10 minutes of putting a song out, I feel like you'd be like either, oh, this is gonna happen, or we're kind of gonna have to convince.
Too late to pull it.
what's the next song we're gonna put out, and when can we put it out?
Dude, I mean, I know we touched upon this on the last time I was on your guys' podcast, but I remember when we put out Dirty Laundry off of Renegade first. Like, I think that had a big feeling, that had that same feeling of like, I remember listening to it and I just imagine the fans being like, okay, just wait, like give it 2 minutes, the heavy guitars are coming and that they're going to be there and everything like that. And I remember just feeling like, they're not, it's going to take some convincing, and I just don't have that right now.
Yeah. Well, I mean, what a better feeling to have going on.
Yeah, for sure. And I mean, generally speaking, it ends up just fine. Like it certainly did, but it is a lot. And you have this emotion from the past year of ups and downs, and like, the record is done and it's not, and it's all this. And then the feeling of putting it out and having everyone accept it, it's just like, oh, thank fucking God.
Yeah.
Yeah. Was there any debate between Some Kind of Disaster and Sleeping In? Because that, I mean, they're both awesome, but the chorus to Sleeping In, I think I texted you about it when you sent it to me. That, I mean, that has to be your guys' best song. It's just,
oh man,
it's insane.
Insane. No, oddly enough, like that was actually, Sleeping In wasn't gonna be a pre-release song, and so we had, it was absolutely gonna be on the record from the first day we wrote it, but and it's like, it's a lot of our favorites, but Yeah, Disaster just felt a little bit more indicative of the record as a whole. And we didn't want to do that thing where, Sleeping In is a pretty just classic like pop punk song, and the rest of the record isn't necessarily that. Whereas the rest of the record, there's parts of the record in some kind of disaster there's parts of every song in that song, whereas Sleeping In is kind of like in its own world. So we didn't want to tease and then be like, oh, never mind.
Yeah, for sure.
But that song, man, playing that song live has, talking about Weightless. Weightless is a song that even though it's 11 years old, I still love playing it live. And Sleeping In, I feel like, hopefully 10 years from now we're still playing, but I feel like it's going to be like that. It's such a fun crowd song. It's a fun drumming song.
I remember you guys putting Weightless out on
great.
Warp Tour.
Hell yeah.
And because you guys played those like couple shows on Warp Tour. That's over 10 years ago. And I remember you guys opened with that song, and it was fucking crazy. I remember sitting with Pat
in a house
and being like, they just put this out, and everyone was going fucking wild. It was like, I have such a memory
without,
of that. Like
big shot.
Oh man, that's really cool that you remember that. Yeah, that was that was a time, and I don't like
did that with American Candy and
with ahead of myself, but the feeling of this momentum and this record and everything that's happened around it so far is, I keep saying it, is like when we put out Weightless and like when we were touring on Nothing
just
Personal.
Like the environment,
it's overwhelming.
It's
like we're just riding this wave, and the fan base is just pushing us from behind. It's a great feeling. Yeah, man, it's so true, and you kind of like. We're very similar bands in that we've been together for forever. We all get along with one another, but touring with each other is a lot different than creating with each other. And you kind of forget the parts of your bandmates and your best friends that you forget about that aspect of them of like, oh shit, yeah, it's great to play music with these people, but it's even greater to create with these people. Mm-hmm. And that was kind of lost on me for a while. And so, yeah, when you just wake up in a house with your 4 bandmates or 3 bandmates, and that day there's a blank slate. It's just create, and there's no pressure. There's no there's no studio owner lording down on you. There's no big shot producer being like, well, I've got a meeting at 5, so we got to wrap this up. There were days that we'd work until like 3 a.m. Yeah. There are days that we'd go out to dinner at 7 p.m., get drunk, come back, write some more. And there are days that we just hang around the pool all day and not work at all if we weren't feeling it. And it just didn't feel like we were creating a record. It just felt like we were hanging out and back in the basement and just writing for fun. And I think that kind of shows through on the whole record.
Yeah, that's awesome. So like, was the intention to record the record in that house, or were you guys just going there to write at first?
Well, it started, like I said, in Nashville. What happened was, like you guys have been in my studio, and it's a nice studio, and it's you could do anything there. And Alex just wanted to do everything in the control room, so we would take scratch guitar tracks, which for the listener is just like a demo guitar track. It's not final; it's sloppy. Alex would sit on the couch in the control room with like a $300 mic and do the vocals. He didn't want to be in the vocal booth. He wanted instant feedback. He wanted to be able to be like, oh, let's take that again. Talk to Cervini right there. Talk to me right there. Phil Cornell. And like this process just became this seamless little. It just again was just more relaxed. If he had a lyrical change he wanted to do, we might be working on song 4, and he'd be like, hey, can we go back to song 2? And I just want to try something new in the chorus. And because there was just so much fluidity, he could just do it from the couch. He just fell in love with that. So when we went to Palm Springs, it was the same thing. I mean, we recorded in this marble house, and if you listen to those vocal takes soloed out, it is brutal. Like all you hear is reverb and echo and like, a blender in the background. It was like jumping in a pool in the background. And that was just how it stuck. I mean, the guitar parts are a little sloppy because a lot of them are just like scratch guitar parts. The only thing we went back and like overdubbed were the drums. Obviously, we didn't record the drums in the house. We went to a studio for that. And some of the vocal takes, like if it's really quiet and like you could hear the actual house, like we had to redo some of that. But yeah, the intention was just to write. And then because of modern technology and things like, Kempers and just plugins, you don't need a ton of hardware. I mean, it was just a Mac Pro, an SM7. All the acoustics were mic'd with an SM7, all the percussion with an SM7. and a Kemper, and that was pretty much it. And then bass was, DI'd in there, right in this, most of the bass tracks were recorded by Zach with a dripping bathing suit and no shirt on.
That sounds about right.
I mean, I guess it isn't too off brand.
Did he ever do that before? I feel like that would be the only way he'd record.
I was going to say, you could probably fill in, instead of most of the bass parts, you could do anything. Most of the dinners, most of the whatever. Most of the tax returns were filled out with Zach and but yeah, I don't know, man. It just was a lot. There was no deadline. Like, the fan base didn't really know we were recording a record. They knew we were together and they knew we were writing maybe, but there was no like, stay tuned for what's next, or like, when do you hear this banger? It's just, they knew we were together, so there was just zero pressure and things were just moving along. It was a really great experience.
Did you guys actually record or write any stuff in Palm Springs, like as you're doing this?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. So on the record, Sleeping In is a good example, but there's probably a good half of the record, maybe a little bit more, was in Palm Springs. And like someday we wake up and Alex would be like, "Meh, I'm not really feeling that creative today. Like, Ryan, can you program some drums? Or Zach do some bass? Or Jack do some guitar?" And then there are other days where he would just wake up and be like, "I have this idea," and he'd start with it, and we just roll with that. And it was just like, again, just fluid. We would just switch gears whenever it made sense.
Awesome. How much were you mapping out the drum parts like on the computer before you recorded, like the fills and stuff?
Pretty much to a T. Yeah, so it's the way, when I was working out of my studio producing, it's the way that I've always done it. It's just like, by the time the drummer or me gets in there, like, the parts are already there. I mean, if I'm the drummer, especially. And so, yeah, I mean, there's a few things that I changed in the moment, but for the most part, I would, with Cervini, program the drums exactly how I would like them to sound, so that drums are the last thing we did on the record. So there was no surprises, and there was no change of feel or anything like that.
Yeah.
Nice. We put Pat through hell. We always have like weird loops, and then when he's actually doing it, we're like, no, try this. No, wait. No, like, do it like this. And it's always like people who don't play drums that like say to do this absurd shit that's like impossible to play. But he's like, in like 2 minutes he'll have it. It's always funny. I'm sorry, Pat. We do that
good.
To you. It sucks so bad because like we'll like get them like down like pretty good like on the computer in pre-pro. So I'll like sit and listen to it and be all right, cool, got it. And then once I'm actually in there, it's like John every time is like, hey, but like,
yeah, dude, there's this great.
What if you did this?
I think I hope I didn't say this last time, but I don't care if I did. Hoppus did this quote to Feldman once where Feldman, Hoppus is doing vocals and Feldman's like, hey, why don't you try this? And Hoppus goes, yeah, that's not a bad idea. I'm just trying to think of what I would do if I was the singer of Blink-182. Oh my God, damn good. So good. And it goes the same way. Like, at some point as a drummer, you're like, just because you can mouth a drum part doesn't mean it should be fucking played. Like,
yeah. But then it ends up like sometimes working out good where there's like parts that I like wouldn't have thought of. Like in the Taxi, there's like the like little drum like stutter kind of like a triplet thing like
into that last
chorus. And it's like I wouldn't have done that, and he was just like just like do this, and then and that ends up being like a big part in the song,
the amount of times after a drum day where I go up to Alex and I'm like having beers whatever, and I'm like, I'm sorry, man, again, you were so right. Yeah. Like, damn it. Because they have an overhead view, you know what I mean? You're so tuned in and you're so laser focused on what you're playing and how you heard it that it's hard to accept anything else as being a better idea.
And there's so much pressure. It's like everybody else is in a different room, and it feels like they're like talking about you the whole time about like, oh, he's fucking
so true. And it's like, and they're all just watching you.
Pat, do you remember on Flowers of the Grave on the last chorus? During the song, I had Squire, I told him to turn the mic on, and I said, do the Jimmy fill. And so there's this Jimmy Eat World fill that I love that it's like this tom hit. And while he's recording it, because it's pretty much that whole last chunk was one take, I was like, do the Jimmy fill. And then all of a sudden the next like round, he puts it in, and I was like, yeah!
Oh, it's so good. And that's another thing about being in a band together for so long. It's like Pat knows what the Jimmy fill is. You know what I mean? And by the way, knowing that song and knowing Jimmy, I know exactly what you're talking about.
Oh man.
Oh, band talk.
Yeah. Now for the 30 listeners we have left.
Yeah.
Let's talk more about drum fills.
Well, I think the other interesting thing that you guys did was to take that long of a break, which is something that like I've kind of always had an interest in, and being like, what would happen if we just didn't do anything for a year? You know, what was kind of the thought process in that? Like, were you guys burnt out, or just like wanted to do other things? Or
I've been very choosy about like my wording with this, because I know people, like, not you guys, but like we've seen pull quotes that have been like, all time low was on the brink of a breakup. Read what's next. And it's like, no. But no, yeah, we were tired, and we were, Last Young Renegade was a tough record cycle for us. Touring wise, it was incredible. It was kind of bigger than we've ever been, and we had a bigger show than ever. But my mom's FaceTiming me. Hang on. But we had to kind of like convince people, like we talked about earlier. Like we had to put on shows to be like, no, these translate live. These are badass. And the idea of Renegade was for it to be kind of like a separation of All Time Low. Like, it's an All Time Low record through and through, and it's got some of my favorite songs on it that we've ever done. But it was a departure, and it was a deliberate departure from what we've been doing. And so by the end of that record cycle, we were just kind of like gassed, and we'd toured for so long. We'd never taken a break. We didn't really know where we wanted to go creatively. And Alex had, Simple Creatures. He had been talking to Mark and writing with Mark about this. Jack had wanted to like try his hand in writing a little bit more with a different kind of project. And I wanted to do the studio stuff. And so we kind of just chatted, and we were like, well, let's just fucking chill for a year and not focus on touring, and not, just hammer it in more, not like force a record. And because of that, because we were able to flex our creativity a little bit on Last Young Renegade, because Alice was able to write for Simple Creatures and Jack for Who Hurt You, we were able to kind of rejoin as one single focus for Wake Up Sunshine. I don't think without Renegade, Wake Up Sunshine would have been written. I don't think without Simple Creatures, without Who Hurt You, it just wouldn't have happened. So by the time we got back together and refocused on everything, we just missed All Time Low so much, and that's what Sunshine was, born out of.
Yeah.
How
exciting.
into a year off were you like, fuck, I kind of want to go back out?
It was longer than I thought, probably about 2 weeks. Yeah, man, it was not long. Probably around, we started, Alex came to Nashville around February. And that really made me want to go play shows. And then April comes around, and I'm just like, oh my God. Like, it's psychological. It was, 2019 was a really tough year for me, because you kind of forget just psychologically how much touring means to you and how much it becomes your purpose in life. You know what I mean? And sure, I can produce and I can engineer, but that's not what I do. I can do it, but it's not what I do. And with touring being stripped away, I kind of felt like I was just floating, like I was an autopilot. I'd wake up, I'd do my thing, I'd go out with friends, but I was like, I just didn't have that purpose and that like feeling of, oh yeah, you're doing the right thing in your life right now. So it didn't take long before I realized that. And luckily, again, I got a good friend group. I had good relationships at the time, and it was fine. And then more importantly, when it came time to get back to work, I was just ready.
Yeah.
Totally.
Yeah, I'm sure it was kind of weird. Like, what was it? Was it weird being at home and seeing like Simple Creatures out doing festivals? And yeah, it was. I was very. I wasn't jealous. I was envious. Like, because I remember Alex calling me. I was outside of. Did we go to Baja Burrito when you guys were at the studio? I don't think so.
I don't think so.
I think we ordered. he says them.
It's a Mexican place right near my studio, and I remember being outside of there, and Alex calling me, and I was immediately like, "Uh-oh, this is not going to be good." You know how like some people, like I talk to Alex every day, but an unsolicited phone call is like, "Oh God."
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he goes, "Hey man, what's going on? How you doing?" And I'm like, "Alex, what's happening right now?" And he was like, "So, Mark and I have been talking, and we've been writing together, and he wanted to start a band with me." And I was like, "Yeah, and." And I just remember being like waiting for like some bombshell. And he was like, "I just want to make sure it's cool with you. It's just going to be for this year. We'll never interfere with All Time Low." And I was like, "Dude, fucking absolutely." And I was like, my initial reaction, I say this without reservation, was just, I was so fucking proud. Like I was like, no one, we started the band because of Blink. We started the band 100% because of Blink. And for Mark to want to be in a band with our main songwriter, it was incredible. So I would see them touring and I would be like, fuck, I wish I could be doing that. But no, it was never like with any sort of negative emotion attached to it.
Totally.
And it just made me want to tour even more.
Yeah, I mean, I can only imagine how that would feel. It's like, that's insane that he's in a band with. I mean, and obviously it's kind of this weird thing where you guys have like become friends with them and stuff, and toured with them so much that like the excitement isn't as insane as it was. But if you just like think back to when you guys were 16, it's just like, holy, that's like,
I mean, my first tattoo,
mind-bending.
My first tattoo, my first drum cover, our first band, everything. And then the only thing I was really jealous about throughout the whole process was who hurt you being able to play with the main. That I was pissed about. I was like, that should be me. That should absolutely be me.
Oh, man.
Pat, how did you, not to turn the tables here, but how did you feel about, I know you've been in this, how long have you guys been together?
13 years.
Yeah, so how did it feel to not miss a show, but to miss like that tour? I know obviously it was for the best reason in the world, but still had to be a little rough.
Yeah, I mean, it was very weird. Like I would say like the first like week and a half, I was really bummed. And just like looking up things on Instagram and like seeing it, I'm just like, oh my God, like this is so weird. But I just obviously kept having to remind myself that,
right,
the best thing ever. And
it's not like you had a sprained left ankle.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, I mean, it ended up being fine, and I think more than anything, it like kind of gave me some time because it ended up being that my baby wasn't born until like the last 3 shows of the tour. So
yeah,
I had a long time, and it really like allowed me to like take a second and like put some things in perspective of like what I think like we should do next for the band, because like just like you guys, like we're always just in like, what's next, let's go, so it was like
absolutely,
actually do some thinking.
And I know like running into we ran into Garrett and the Main Boys when we were playing in what was Leeds.
Yeah.
And you kind of also forget that, and I think I can say this without, I think this is true, that not only are you the drummer, but you're kind of the showrunner. You're kind of Larry David to Seinfeld. You know what I mean? Like, where they were kind of just like, I think individually, all of the dudes are like, we don't know what the fuck we're doing without Pat. Like, drumming is one thing, but you were very much missed. So it was a funny thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's and like you being off now, I'm just like thinking about Sad Summer and just like so excited to get back out there and play.
Yeah, dude, I'm like, when this podcast is coming out?
Whenever probably pretty soon.
Yeah, so I mean, obviously we just put out that statement yesterday, that everything's going on as planned, and yeah, that'll be, I mean, obviously we have to roll with the punches no matter what, but I feel pretty confident, and I'm just like, that's my ray of light at the end of all this. Like, like I said, it's been a rough month for everyone, but Nashville got hit kind of especially hard. And that's been like that's still here. Like I get to tour with my best friends and some of my best friends and fans, and just all throughout the summer. And that's been such a guiding light for me. So again, thank you guys.
And I'm thinking that for the fans too, it's like I'm sure it feels really good to have a calendar that's like I get this full day just to have fun, you know.
Yep.
Which I think is going to make the shows even better. You know, everybody's going to be so excited for it.
I agree, man. Like it feels like it's, you know, obviously this is such a horrible thing that's happening right now, and that's all goes without saying. But you're so right that more than ever, people need a reason just to relax and to release and to just smile. And I think that, ironically, it's the sad summer fest that'll be there for a lot of people.
Exactly.
We should change it for just for the year. Happy Fest. Everyone get fucking
happy, healthy fest.
Yeah.
But no, I'm just so like I feel like all the bands on the lineup. I mean, just like when you say it out loud, like, you know, all time low, the story so far, the main movement, grayscale, and on. It's just like it just sounds insane.
Oh yeah, and honestly, like, you know how we were talking about first song release and record release and like how edgy you get about like your fan response. Touring is a whole nother boat where like you love the lineup, or maybe you don't sometimes, but you know it's right. With this lineup, I know we were all like just fucking stoked, and then we released it, and without fail, the fan base was like, yes, I'm fucking going.
Yeah. I mean, it's fucking sold out Pier 17 in like a couple hours.
It's insane, man. What a beautiful venue that place is.
Oh, it's awesome. I was like, hey, here's almost 4,000 tickets of the day. Like, sweet.
That's so wild, man. Good for all of us.
Yeah. It's awesome. I mean, does that kind of does the tour like also kind of feel like a return to something for you guys too? Like, I feel like it's like been a bit since you guys have done like a tour with this big of a package, you know.
Oh, for sure, man. I think, you know, for a lot of our touring career, or more recently especially, like we kind of try to go, I don't know, just we tried to like bring bands that maybe we wouldn't normally tour with or wouldn't normally want to tour with us, and it was a great experience, and I got to meet some amazing musicians and amazing bands. But for this summer, we just wanted to fucking play shows with our friends and put, you know, just have as many fans be able to see the show as possible. And so obviously with you guys, we were able to curate this like thing that I remember, and I still listen to pretty much every band on this bill. And I listen to this kind of music all the time. And I remember thinking I would fucking pay to see this show, which I don't say a lot. I'm jaded. I don't like to go see shows. But yeah, man, we're all, there's not one of us that's like, fine, I'll show up for our sets and leave. Like, we're all just stoked to be there all day. So
yeah. And I feel like there's just something so fun about like being on this kind of a tour in the summer, where it's just like everybody's going to be hanging out, and, you know, we're going to set up a bar backstage, and everybody's going to be playing cornhole and drinking and hanging out, and like it's just gonna feel it makes the whole day fun, as opposed to just like, all right, let's sit around and wait for our set time.
Yeah, just sit around this shitty dressing room in this venue that hasn't been touched since 1964. And like, yeah, and especially like, you know, the bands that are our age grew up going to festivals, going up to Warped Tour, and like spending a day at a show and seeing your favorite band. And the bands that are younger wish they had that. And so, you know, with you guys creating this festival, and the same goes to the fan base, like the fan base that is too young to go to Warped Tour, they know about it and they read about it and they wish they could have gone. So you guys have created this all day affair where people get to experience that and get to see their favorite band. So yeah, and regarding the bar backstage, we'll be blackout by our set every single night.
And like to me, what makes it so cool is like it has like the spirit and the energy of like you're talking about the festivals that we grew up going to, like on a Warped Tour and stuff. But then it has this like, it's not so like every band just gets a half an hour and doesn't have any production, and it's just like uncomfortable, but you just kind of do it. It's like, this is going to be like such a better experience for the fans. And
man,
it's like,
absolutely.
gonna get to watch like a full headlining all time low show in the dark at night.
Yeah. No, yeah, that's a good point too. Is like obviously we owe a ton to Warped Tour, but
Oh yeah.
there were things that the fans did not like about it, and there were many things the bands did not like about it. But all of that kind of goes away when you have, instead of 50 bands on the bill, you have between 5 and 10. You know what I mean? And it's like, or 6, and in this case it was 7. But yeah, it's just, you're right. You can kind of cater to every band, make sure every person is taken care of. You know everyone's name. There's no like anonymity. We're all, it's more of a family, less of like a circus. Yeah, and, and the fan base as well. Like there's enough, we can cater to every single fan, make sure that every type of fan is taken care of. So yeah.
Yeah, I can't wait.
It's gonna be so freaking awesome. So
ready.
What are you gonna be doing for the next 2 weeks to
oh man
to a month?
Well, because I just got power back a few days ago, I'm like all excited about that. Like, I'm turning lights on and off, and that's enough. And then and I just got Wi-Fi a day or two ago, so I'm like rediscovering Netflix. I'm like, oh, you can stream Curb Your Enthusiasm. But yeah, I'm doing well. I like, for us touring people, being at home and not touring, you kind of get used to, not getting up and going to work. Like, so it's not too much of a shift for people like us. Obviously, not being able to hang out with friends and bars and cafes and stuff is weird. But I know that psychologically, it's probably a lot harder for people that have spent their lives waking up and spending 8-9 hours at work every single day. Mm-hmm. And that's that's kind of the struggle. I can sit around, drink coffee, work out in my garage, play some drums, and then I go to bed. Like, that's not too different than my normal day. So I'm doing okay so far. A lot of FaceTime, a lot of group FaceTime, and just pretending like we're at a bar all drinking. So
nice.
What about you guys? Are you going crazy yet?
I'm doing okay. The only thing, it's like I've kind of like, I had a bit of a cold like before all this began, so I've just like been afraid to be around the baby all that much, just because.
Of course, yeah.
With all the uncertainty, so I've kind of been in the other end of the house, kind of on my own. So
yeah, but that's got to be tough.
Yeah. So that's hard. It's like I'm FaceTiming my wife to look at my baby, so it like feels like I'm on the road or something.
Yeah.
So, I've just been nerding out, messing with keyboards in my. I have a shed in my backyard that is like kind of my studio vibe, and I've just got all these keyboards back there, and I'm like, I'm going full scientist for like hours.
Oh, I was gonna say, like, what a great time to be a creative person. Like, I mean, I should rephrase that, but like, to be forced into a creative atmosphere or just be bored out of your mind has got to be a great inspiration for a creative mind.
Oh yeah, I mean, like that's why I think it's like a good time, because like, I mean, our band was supposed to be working on like writing songs right now, so it's kind of like, all right, we're just working on things on our own, but most of the ideas kind of come from John from the beginning, like anyway, so he's just been working away on ideas. So
yeah, and you might hit one of those things where but like we did last year, writing this record is like, by the time you finally can get together, it'll just be like this explosion of like, let's fucking do it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Totally. Yeah.
Well, that's awesome. Well, can't wait for Sad Summer. Can't wait for people to hear the whole album and for me to hear it all. I think I've heard 8 songs or so, and they're all.
Yeah, I'll have to get you a stream of it. It's out in 2 weeks.
Yeah,
so I'll have to get you
I want to hear it. And it's like, I mean, 15 songs. That's ambitious.
Yeah, man, it's a lot. It's not something we'd ever planned to do, but we literally, and this is gonna sound so shitty, but like we just couldn't cut another one. We all agreed on these 15 songs, and there was probably another 15 to 20 to choose from. And of those 15 to 20, we each wanted like a different 3. So but these 15 were like, yeah, these have to be on. And then by the time we realized how many had to be on, we were like, oh, well, that's it. That's more than a full record.
Yeah.
So I think people will be down for the ride. It definitely, it doesn't get boring, and there's ups and downs to it. So yeah, I'll definitely send it over to you guys.
Cool.
Oh yeah, that's a good problem to have, because we are kind of it's always in the opposite thing. We're like with Lovely or Lonely, we're like, no, technically there's like 7 or 8 actual songs on this because those are the only ones that are good that we have.
Yeah, it's so funny. But then, like, it's so funny.
Hey,
and then we listen to demos from like that time, and we're like, why the fuck didn't we record this song? Like, there's this song that we've had for since then that we always go back. Oh, we're gonna put it on this record, and then it just doesn't. It's just so funny.
It's so weird how that shit happens, man.
Yeah.
It's just you're so in the project that you have no perspective. You have no like bird's eye view of what might fit in it. You just think, no, that's done. That's not on the record, and that just works.
Totally, it's so funny.
Oh man,
Well, dope.
insane. Well, thanks for doing this.
Yeah, guys, I appreciate you having me back. Anytime.
Oh yeah,
We'll do it again in a week when we're even crazier.
Absolutely.